Are 3/4s being phased out of the entire game? Let's talk about it. What's up, everybody? We have a wonderful thing to talk about here on screen. It's from an article in Snap.fan, not Red Hulk. Get out of here. It's a surprise OTA buff for next season, which is just around the corner next week. So let's go ahead and not only preview the cards next week, but talk about the seemingly 3/4s are no longer a thing. And let's get into it. So first off, starting with Baron Zemo, the Season Pass card says, on reveal, recruit the lowest cost card from your opponent's deck to your side of the location. We assume that means steel, kind of like Cable or Old Mantis to an extent, in which this kind of paints light to the change to, what was his name? The change to Yondu, and makes a nice, seemingly cool curve of Yondu on 1, Cable on 2, Baron on 3. Gives you a good chance to get stuff. But not only did Baron see a buff in the this sneaky OTA for next month, all the other cards except for Red Guardian got a buff by 1 point. Baron's them a 3/5. Red Hulk is a 6/11, Valentina is a 2/3, and US Agent is a 2/3 as well. Baron is a Season Pass card. It looks really cool. I think it's going to be fun to play with. I don't know how powerful it'll be. I do like the idea of Yondu on 1, Cable on 2, Baron on 3 to pull a much higher chance of getting a decently statted card. But let's go ahead and talk about the other cards first before we go into this whole 3/4 thing, because there's been people online saying that the 3/4 is just, you know, the 3/5 is the new 3/4, essentially. But let's get into the other ones first. Red Hulk. You have a 6/11 now. This says when your opponent ends a turn with unspent energy, +4 power, if in hand or in play. So it's like the mirror image of the High Evolutionary Hulk. Really cool. This is just a great death knell for High Evo, essentially. So that's nice. If the meta gets a lot of that, then you just have a card that's just an answer to it. Otherwise, the amount of times people don't play perfectly on curve is quite a bit. If we look at like other lists, look at like Black Knight, for example. I mean, frankly, let's just check out Untapped real quick and look at the top lists in general. So Destroy doesn't always play perfectly on curve. You might have a Deadpool and a Carnage come out on 4, for example, or like Wolverine, or like just Killmonger on 4. Like it's not always perfectly on curve. Discard's the same way. A lot of these powerful effects, like sometimes you just draw a blade, you're like, oh, I want to get my APOC hit in hand, or I want to hit Helicarrier for the Collector. You don't always typically play perfectly on curve, especially with Corvus in the list, giving you that extra energy left over. Discard very likely doesn't spend all their energy in a single turn anymore if they're playing the Corvus version. Thanos is very similar. It has all the stones that are incredibly flexible, which you could weave in and out of plays, but that doesn't mean you always make the make your plays consistently on curve. Mockingbird as well. You might play a stone or 2 plus Mockingbird, and then you didn't have any other stones left over, and you float energy. Hulk can grow there. So there's a lot of decks in general that Hulk can grow from, which I do think is pretty cool. Interestingly enough, to see, I already thought this was going to be a very powerful card, so seeing him go to a 6/11 is, a little bit of a head scratcher for me. He must not be doing well enough in testing. As on top of which, 6/10 felt nice and round. +4, you go to 14, 18, 22. Now you're looking at 15, 19, 23, 27. Like, that's a weird... It just feels off. I feel like it should be a 12, but you can't have it be Hulk level. You can't have it perfectly match that. I don't know. That's weird. Let me know what you guys think about Red Hulk. US Agent. US Agent saw the biggest change. This was before like a lizard, essentially, but inverse. It was a 2/6 that said it gets -1 for each of the cards you have on this lane. So it's, again, an inverse of lizard, kind of. Or now he was changed to a 2/2, ongoing, 4, 5, and 6 cost cards here of -3 power. And now he's a 2/3. So it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum of Man-Thing, which is cool. We have Man-Thing, and now this is a lower cost. Like, Man-Thing is a 4 cost that hits 1, 2, and 3s. Now this is a 2 cost that hits 4, 5, and 6. I like that. I like that a lot. It They go in the same deck, of course. I'm excited to try out US Agent. Probably the weakest of the month, I would imagine. But that doesn't mean he's not powerful. I think he could be very interesting. The other side is, when you're hitting 4, 5, and 6 costs with -3 power, sure, that's cool, but how impactful is it, right? Null, for example, hitting that with -3 power. If he's 20 power, does that make too much of a difference? Hitting Dracula, for example. If you discarded an APOC that was 18 power and now he's a 15, is that big of a deal? Eliath, maybe, but I've had my Eliath hit by Nico plenty of times. Or sorry, not Nico, Celine, and it didn't really matter. So the jury's going to be out on that. We'll see. I just don't know how impactful that's going to be. And then last, as far as the changes go, we'll go over Red Guardian in a moment. Valentina, she's a 2/2 to a 2/3. On reveal, add a random 6-cost card to your hand. Give it -2 cost and -3 power. I think she is going to be the best card this month. She goes straight into Loki. Very impactful. Really good card. I actually like her a lot because Maria Hill was that 2-cost random card generator in Loki decks. In fact, let's see. Here's Loki right here. So Cable kind of now has that role again. Don't get me wrong, Cable's still really powerful, but getting a random just 6 cost to cost only 4 does give you a great pivot point of like, okay, do I play Loki on 4 or am I going to be playing this 6 cost? Because you can kind of see if it's impactful enough to play it. Like a Destroyer, for example, if I just go ahead and play a Quinjet and a Valentina, right? And I get a Destroyer, a 3 cost with Quinjet, 13 power. Yeah, I'm gonna play that and snipe my Quinjet. Like that's worth it, right? So I'm excited for her. And if it ends up being a dud, like a card that you don't think is very impactful, like a Blob, for example, and Loki doesn't have the best use of Blob, then you could just be like, all right, well, I'm just going to keep that in hand and have Loki transform it to something more important. So the other card that wasn't changed at all in this update is Red Guardian. He's still a 3/3. On reveal, afflict the lowest power enemy card here with -2 power and remove its text. I think that's warranting to not have any extra hits. A 3/3, super powerful card. This is going to be amazing for a lot of things. Hitting Quinjet, for example, for Loki decks, really powerful. Hitting things like Collector, Morbius, Dracula. This is just really good against a lot of these cards in discard. Amazing. Mobius, he's only 3 power. There's a very good chance he is the lowest power card in that lane. If he's bothering you, then this is great, especially because I think Red Guardian wants to go in like the control list that plays Sarah, Zabu, all that stuff. And, you like having your cost reductions, This is great. Super excited for this one. Going to be a fantastic card. So let's talk about the 3/4, 3/5 thing, okay? So looking at the 3 costs, typically your vanilla stat line is going to be your Cyclops. 3/4, that is the base stat. And all the 3/4s in the game are right here. Sabretooth, Luke Cage, Agent, Thor, Dakin, Shaw, Kyera, Hope Summers, okay? And it's a little weird that some of these have the 3/4 stat line because the stat line is supposed to be whether or not you have an impactful ability. Look at Mobius, for example. He's understated at 3/3 because he has a high impact ability. Vulture, even though he doesn't see much play, is understated because it gets +6 power. Same thing with Black Widow, Cosmo, Debris, Elsa. And then you get even lower. Magic is a 3/2. Mr. Fantastic's a 3/2. Though Fantastic could maybe use the buff to a 3/3. Let's be honest. Electra is a great example. Brood. Like these are all cards that the lower you get in power, it's because the higher impact their ability is. So why are we getting what is seemingly going to be a high impact ability at a 3/5? And it's not just going to be that as well. Look at recent releases like Black Swan and Corvus. Corvus is discarding 2 cards from your hand, getting you +1 energy, comparing that to his counterpart, Electro, which I think is a much steeper cost requirement, or I guess, payment for what he provides. They both give you +1 max energy for the next few turns, but Electro Sandmans you, and you can only play 1 card a turn, and he's a 3/2. Corvus has synergistic qualities of the discard where they don't actually hurt you. You would think on paper discarding 2 cards is worse than being stuck to play 1 card a turn, but in reality, the decks he goes in, it's far less impactful, and in fact, it makes him stronger. You have a chance to swing in tempo as an above rate card at a 3/5, gain the +1 max energy just like Electro, and also have synergistic qualities with the ability. That's crazy. Black Swan as well. It's a mana cheat or energy cheat that says on reveal until the end of the next turn, your 1 cost costs 0. And it's an above rate card. It's a 3/5. It's weird. And these have been like 2 examples of like recent cards where you look at like their stats. And then on top of that, you have Kyera and Hope Summers. Hope Summers is probably one of the best cards, if not the best card in the game. Being able to cheat on energy for each card you play here, and she's perfectly on rate for vanilla. Kyera, really good card that protects your 1s and 6s. Was a staple in Haiva, was a staple in Thanos. Still sees play in those decks, but have kind of waned out of existence because of this card right here, frankly. But she's also a vanilla stat line. You would think these being super powerful effects would be underneath Cyclops, right? Underneath that vanilla. So you see that again for Baron. Maybe people have a point. Some of these choices for, cost to power ratio feel a little bit strange, I suppose. Like even Ghost going to a 3/5 in her rework is an interesting choice. It's something to consider, something to ponder. I'm not sure what to really make of it. Maybe we'll see how it goes. I mean, we'll find out next week about Baron Zemo. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the 3/4 vanilla is being phased out? Do you think Cyclops could change to a 3/5? I don't think he can because of Haivo. So I don't know. The 3/4 base stat line for vanilla is just a weird way to look at it now. Is 3/5 the norm? Because pretty much every new card we're getting is either a 3/4 with a very, very good ability, or it's a 3/5 with also a pretty busted ability too. But let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Appreciate you. Love you. Sub, like, all that. And I'll see you on the next one.